Anyway, Alfredo asks, who were those dark creatures that were waiting for you outside of the hospital room? Were they demons?
Okay. I get that question a fair amount, and I am 100% certain they were not demons, they were people. This is very difficult for me to say, personally, emotionally difficult,
Right,
because I knew that they were people just like me.
right.
They were my kindred spirits, or in a very sort of perverse sort of way, they were my soulmates. They were not unfamiliar to me. I was not able to identify them like, oh, that's good old Bill, and that's Sam, and that's George. No, I never saw them that clearly. They never identified themselves. And in that place of torment and darkness, they probably would have been unrecognizable, whatever was going on. But the point is that I mean this quite sincerely. I love them, and I want them to be rescued. The only problem is I don't know if they can be.
I first heard of Howard Storm's near-death experience on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries in 1997. It really eased my troubled mind, because I was terrified that death was the end, and there was no life after death. I had just lost my faith in near-death experiences about a year or so ago in 1996. When I saw that they could duplicate the out-of-the-body experience in a lab, and when I saw his near-death experience of going to hell and being rescued by, it had to be Jesus, because Unsolved Mysteries would not call him Jesus because, it's politically incorrect to mention Jesus in the world on TV, but I digress. At that time, I didn't know who he was. I was just lying in bed, afraid, unable to go to sleep for the terror. What if death is the end? Then the unconsciousness of sleep was but a foretaste of the final oblivion of death, and my body was repulsed from being able to fall into a sleep because of this fear. So I'd lay in bed thinking about what I had seen as Unsolved Mysteries, and it would at least ease my mind a little. I found out who this man was, Howard Storm. In 2002, I went and bought the book. But Howard Storm's Jesus was Jesus of utter love. And since then, I've read up on the theology and Christianity of the early church fathers. There are a lot of parallels between Howard Storm's near-death experience and what the early church fathers taught. Howard Storm says, in his book, you believe in Jesus, you pray to God and ask for His forgiveness. The journey is just begun. The journey has just begun. Howard Storm says, if you have not lived the Christian life, you don't go to heaven. But Howard Storm also says we are saved by the grace by Jesus. We can't do it ourselves. This matches perfectly what the early church fathers said. Is by grace alone. But the early church fathers also taught that if you denied Jesus or fell back into sin, you didn't go to heaven, but you were saved by grace. So, this makes me hope Howard Storm's experience was real, that he met the real Jesus Christ. And Howard Storm says, believing in Jesus begins when you put your faith in Him, but it continues. He said in his book, God does not need juries. He knows the actions of our lives. If you have lived lovingly, you will go towards God when you die. Go towards Jesus and meet Jesus when you die. And the early church fathers said, one of them said, the believers in Plato might have been Christians even though they did not know Jesus. Stuff like that. And the stance Howard takes on believing in Jesus is that it begins the same stance as the early church fathers. Faith is not a one-time event. you say the sinner's prayer and you got your ticket punched in, you can live like the devil the rest of your life and still go to heaven. That's what modern day Christianity teaches. But Howard Storm, like the early church fathers, teaches that you are saved by faith. But you must have, your faith must be linear. Begins now and ends. And keeps on. And you got to die in the faith. So I'm hoping Howard Storm's near-death experience is real. The only thing that bothers me is he said Howard Storm infers that Jesus Christ had to die for the sins of other alien beings on other worlds, which is blasphemy to suggest that Christ died more than once for sins. Read the book of Hebrews. But another thing that really gets under my skin about Howard Storm is he preaches a Jesus who loves everybody. Howard Storm says he wants to. Jesus told him to love the person you live with. But Howard Storm could not have been much more unloving to me the times I spoke to him on the telephone, the times I emailed him. When he finally did make himself reply to me, the wording he used dripped with the sense that he felt I was imposing upon him. Like you go to the restaurant and you order too difficult, the waiters and waitresses look at you with that look like, why are you imposing upon this? Like you're imposing upon them. That's how Howard Storm was like to me. He was like a morgue slab. Cold as a morgue slab the first time I called him. One time I telephoned him and he like, look, I haven't got time to talk. I got a wedding tonight. Another time I emailed him, Howard Storm said, I'm not qualified to answer all your questions. You need to find a Christian counselor. What, Howard Storm? You got to ask Jesus all the questions you could think of to ask. You're not qualified to answer my fucking questions? To whom much is given, much is required, Howard Storm. I know even though you believe in Jesus and met Jesus, you want to have your fancy home, your beach cottage, like Dr. George C. Ritchie. But Christ calls us to bear the cross, to give all our wealth to the less fortunate and love them and point them to Christ. But Howard Storm, you putridly failed me, and I hope when you stand before Jesus, you see the way you hurt me, and I curse you, Howard Storm, for this. I curse you. If you're Howard Storm, when you have your next near-death experience, and I'll give them a life review, I hope you see me, Howard Storm. I point my finger at you, you hypocrite. I curse you for not loving me. I curse you. And did you even meet the real Jesus? Is the real Jesus who's giving you your life you real Jesus? Or is he the counterfeit Christ? Or is it all bunch of just a crock of shit and near-death experiences are crock of shit? I personally don't believe in near-death experiences anymore. I want to so badly. I still believe in Jesus. I keep believing in Jesus. But my conclusion is, even if I have my own near-death experience, I'm going to doubt it. Which is what you did too, Howard Storm. Which makes me wonder if your subconscious didn't know something about your experience that your conscious refused to see. And you subconsciously knew it was bullshit, but your subconscious needs to believe it just to live in peace. Until I see my consciousness alive and kicking, when I see my brain having rotted away, when I see my body just a skeleton, I will not believe. Like Thomas. Now let's see if Jesus loves me enough to meet my need, to ease my trouble. He didn't. Thomas, even if it means I have to die a martyr death, like Thomas is reported to have died, I don't know what to fucking believe. Was he martyred like they say he was? Or was it all propaganda? I don't fucking know. I've seen the Christians lie so much. And sometimes I want to sing God, you're a liar. Or at least your children are. Lying about Dungeons and Dragons and conspiracy theories. Jesus said himself, the children of this world, that is the sinners, are wiser than the children of light. And you can see this. Christians are so stupid, believing in conspiracy theories, believing that Dungeons and Dragons and backmasking messages. What a crock of shit. So, Howard Storm, when you died and went to hell, and that mob of people raped you, sexually assaulted you, traumatized you, you love them and want them to be saved if they can. But me, just because I used a few cuss words in your emails, just because I asked questions that your God, your Jesus, didn't have the answers to, how do I know you met the real Jesus? Just because I'm doubting your experience. You don't love me? You don't. Love is action. Don't use this cop out. Oh, I gotta use tough love. Sometimes love means telling a person not to contact you. That's a cop out. That when the loving gets hard and difficult, and you have to get your hands dirty, you just appeal to tough love. That's a goddamn cop out. That's a goddamn cop out. You just don't want to have to work hard at loving. You want to love people who it's easy to love. What, it's easier to love people who raped you in hell than a person who questions your experience, than a person who uses a few fucking cuss words in an email? Was your experience even real? But Howard Storm, when you stand before Jesus again, that is, if you met the real Jesus, if these near-death experiences are even real, when you have your life review, remember this, because I want you to see this. I want you to see my face in this computer screen in your next life review before Jesus. Howard Storm, you are a hypocrite. You are a putrid failure. You were given a chance, to whom much is given, much is required, and you putridly failed the test. And if Jesus did not bring this up for you, then your Jesus is not the real Jesus. Howard Storm, you are a putrid failure to love. There's this one preacher, and he didn't have a near-death experience. He never got, he didn't have an inside track to Jesus like you did. You do. He didn't get to ask Jesus every freaking question he could think to ask. But the waitress, I'm told, kept coming out and pouring cold water on his lap. What would you have done, Howard Storm? You would have cussed her out. You and Dr. George C. Ritchie, who I both supposedly met the Jesus face to face in a near-death experience. You know what he did? He reached out to the waitress and he asked her, "What has bothered you so bad that you feel like you had to dump this water on me over and over?" And she broke down and cried and she got saved. But Howard Storm, because of you and George Ritchie, sometimes I curse God. And it's your fault. It's your damn fault. I hope you see that in your next near-death experience. You unloving hypocrites.
I like that word a lot. Let me just give you an example that anybody can do. When I go to the grocery store, I run into two people invariably, the cashier and the bagger. One of the things that I like to do in my shopping experience, wherever it is know the person's name. Like when I go to a restaurant and I wait, I always ask the server what their name is, and then I use their name. And I try and treat them with kindness, like a decent human being, and not like a machine or a slave or someone to belittle. Which I was a server for 7 years. Trust me, there are people that seem to be sadomasochists that go to restaurants to, afflict other people. Anyways, but most people are very nice. So I go to the grocery store, and invariably they wear a little tag with their name on it. So I go, "Hey Judy, how's it going?" Now I know she's busy. I know there's people, waiting to see her. I know so I'm not trying to engage her in a long conversation. All I want to do is say, Judy or Bob, I see you. You know, you're a human being to me. I know you're working, and I appreciate it. That's what I want to say. One of the things that I love in the U.S., in the last 10 years, it's become common to hire disabled people to be beggars. Some are pretty disabled, mentally, physically, both. They are always surprised when I talk to them and use their name. One of my favorites at the grocery store his name's Davey. He's in his 50s. And I kid him, and I make jokes with him, and he laughs. You know, okay, it's a guy thing. I asked Davey, so you've been on any interesting dates lately? Or, you know, he laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs. He thinks that's so funny. Because I talk to him like a guy. You know, I talk. I don't talk down to him. I don't feel sorry for him. He's a 50-year-old man, and I just treat him like a buddy. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, kindness. Just seeing another person as someone that you care about. Mm-hmm. I don't suspect I'm ever going to get involved in a theological conversation with Davey. Not appropriate, don't.
Howard Storm, you're supposed to be a follower of Jesus. Quit acting like the scribes and Pharisees and telling everybody on YouTube all your good charitable deeds to other people. And start actually living them before God alone. You can start by showing me some love and treating me like a human being. But no, bitch. Some gangster whose mom is dying. He pays your airfare and you go down to see him and talk to him. And you can't even hold a 10-minute goddamn conversation on the goddamn telephone with me. You can't even have an email exchange with me. Because the maths are not adding up. Well, I know, I get it. You say, I'm not a human being. You only treat human beings with love. Not people who are worms. I'm a worm and no man. That verse in Psalm 22 describes me. I'm a worm and no man. And fuck you too, you hypocrite. Now, if you truly met Jesus of love, who said, be kind to your enemies, return good for evil, you will show me love. And if you don't, you are not a follower of Jesus Christ and you are a hypocrite. Goddamn piece of shit.